All right, you guys. I'm going to get this one going. I wanted to start by saying I wanted to cover this kind of topic because I feel it's important. I think things are changing. And I think, well, it's pretty obvious to see they're changing if you're paying attention, but there's obviously a lot of people that are not paying attention because, including uh, Mr. Oval Office there, um, because he's putting out those ridiculous tweets about the influencers and stuff like they're talking to nobody, and that's wild. um People primarily get their news or information, we'll say information, from social media. Smaller independent media voices, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, but the Young Turks, on the left you got the Young Turks, you got there's millions and millions of people watching, and and that's a lot. That's a considerable chunk of the American population watching these people. And to pretend, and that's sharing and seeing, even the people that don't follow them are still seeing them, they're still hearing their opinions, they're and everybody's has an opinion, of course. But the point is that the information is changing. Like, how we get information is changing. It is no longer directly from your mainstream TV sources, your TV news, Fox News, and MSNBC, all these big news companies. I don't watch them. I haven't for a long time because it just seemed like it was it felt really really programmed to me. You know what I mean? Like, it just made me, every time I was watching them, like, it's like, what am I not supposed to be looking at right now, that that I'm being shown this radical stuff. Maybe that makes me a conspiracy theorist. I don't know anymore. But I did want to, because I'm one of them. I'm one of them that no longer looks to the mainstream for information. I don't trust them. And for other people might have different reasons, that they just find these people relatable. you know Whoever they're watching, they happen to relate with them. They agree with them in some way, shape, or form. And they might not agree with everything that they're seeing from these people, but they can relate to them, and they're a lot. And this is huge. The everyday American, you, me, all of us, have so much more in common with these independent broadcasters than we do with the people at the top, the people that are running the mainstream media, and the politicians and all that stuff. Those people live lifestyles that we can't relate to. They don't understand us the way we think. They can't, because they don't live our lives. The brain gets conditioned through your environment, okay? And the normal person's environment is nothing like those people at the top. They could never relate to us. Even if they try to, with good heart, good intentions, they try to relate to us, they can't, because they get done relating to us, and then they go back to their gated community and lay in their big, you know, $5,000 bed, and you know what I mean. Like, the people at the top cannot relate to us at all. These independent influencers are way more relatable for everyday people, and their influence is being sorely underestimated. If the president really thinks what he actually said, I don't know if he is um feigning ignorance on that. He could be. He could be. Or he really doesn't know. He really has no idea that the new best way to get information is going to be, you know, this right here. Not me. I have like 5 subscribers at the moment, so I'm just doing this hoping that you guys will watch at some point. Maybe like, share, Subscribe would be awesome. But anyway, no, really, like people, independent voices, and especially the big ones. But I mean, even the little ones. There's a lot of little guys out there too. Your Baron Coleman's, your Coach Collins, your name them. Paramount Tactical. There's all kinds of smaller channels that are gaining popularity where people go and they see somebody that they relate with. And that's where most of these people are going, is just seeing someone they can relate, they can imagine themselves talking to on a day-to-day basis. And it's much easier for people to absorb information from somebody that they feel that they might have a beer with at some point, or a cup of coffee or whatever, you know what I mean, that they could actually socialize with, versus these suits. We can't relate with those people, so of course we're gonna, most of us are gonna search out information from other sources, because especially if we find somebody more relatable. It's just common sense. um like I said, it's common sense for the normal guy. Apparently it's being missed by some, so anyway, I wanted to get going here. This is Candace in her response, and she had one wild response. I'm going to highlight a few things, and I'm sure you've seen it. If not, definitely go check it out, because she goes off. She goes off. Let's just get into it here. I'm rambling now.
I needed to come back because I wanted to address Mr. President Donald Trump. He is obviously arrived at a moment, and I just wanted to hopefully these words will get to him. So I'll just say that, dear Mr. President Trump. I've always been a fan of
She goes
gladiator
off.
movies. I
She
have
goes
watched
off.
them all countless times. Everybody who watches this podcast knows that. And when I consider what it is that I am so drawn to, like, is it the actors? Is it the story?
I promised I wasn't going to do this a lot. I wanted to highlight one more thing. She they the tweet. I'm sure you shared this. Truth Social that was put out by the president. Called this woman low IQ, and that, I mean, come on, dude. Come on, dude. Why is it never, ever, ever arguments to her questions? Giving hard hitting facts about answering her questions. If they're so ridiculous, if she's so crazy, then why not just put her straight? Just make her look like a fool. No, this is what happened. Boom, boom, boom. We have it right here. So you're being ridiculous. You're a fool, and that's exactly what that would do. But instead, it's always this low IQ, demonic. It's nonsense, and it's really annoying. Like, if you pay attention and you look around at what's happening, you'll notice these people never have anything of substance to argue what these people are saying. It's always personal attacks. And when you resort to personal attacks in an argument, you've lost. Usually. Usually. I'm just saying. All right, I'm going to let the woman talk. I'm sorry, but I just had to point that out.
Storyline, yeah, in part, of course, who could deny like the performance of Russell Crowe in the first film? But above all of that, the characters, the script, there sits this sort of incontrovertible truth that I am absolutely fascinated by, which is the fragility of empires, right? What is it ultimately that collapses an empire? What makes an emperor weak or an emperor strong? I think more to the heart of the matter, the question is, what is it that makes a king or an emperor feel threatened initially, right? The setup of every movie is always the same. You have the wealthy elites, the politicians perched above a coliseum, slaves fighting to their deaths beneath, all for their distinct entertainment, obviously. And then comes the inevitable narrative.
I like how she's making these comparisons to what's going on today, because honestly, that's kind of what it feels like, is we're just almost entertainment value at this point. Just tax cattle type of deal is what it feels like sometimes. But anyway,
Flip. Suddenly, the elites and their scribes and the senators, they perceive a threat. And when does that happen? That's actually not a rhetorical question, Mr. President. I know the answer. It is when a slave begins to command the crowd. every single time without fail. That's when the politicians begin to feel worried. And what is of particular interest to me about that moment is that the slaves on their end, they never desire the seats of the politicians, right? They just want to have their most basic needs met. In most circumstances, they'd happily would serve some sort of structure of governance forever if their basic needs could be met, but it's proven to be a historical impossibility, right?
Man.
Inevitably, we arrive at the moment of political extravagance, the fabled let them eat cake moment. They just can't stop, right? There can be absolutely no truth between a master and his slave for that reason. The nature of the relationship forbids it. And I think about this a lot now, very often, mostly in the context of our late mutual friend, Charlie Kirk. I think to myself, when was the exact moment that Charlie Kirk understood that he was not free?
Hold on. Yeah, see, this is where she's talking about him being like, you know, oh no, what did I just do? Basically under somebody's control, and the more it's just starting to seem more and more every day, like, you know, we might not be doing things in our own best interest, to put it mildly. But I wanted to highlight a couple other things here. Give me one second. See, because she goes over the whole thing again. Unbelievable. I mean, I know I already talked about this, but I really wanted to talk about that, because I touched on it. I said something about boomer mentality, which kind of is exactly what it is. It's a little harsh, but because only the older folks are watching TV and getting their information from the TV. You know what I mean? It's not, most people are not jacked into the TV like that anymore. Like, here's
When no media company would
she goes through some of the comments. Let me see if I can.
have you on, Alex Jones had you on his show.
Yeah, boom. She's
Of course,
talking
continue.
about.
You need to take a step back and take a good hard look at who is whispering in your ear and get back to America first. Next person, Trump, you are just going against everyone that fought for him to win just because of the Epstein files and being at war with Iran for Israel. They didn't leave MAGA, MAGA left them. Clearly, you are insane. Time to resign, Donald, or face the 25th. You are mentally and emotionally unfit to be POTUS. You are so childish. Clearly, the truth has triggered you, being one of your biggest supporters. I am done with you and your lies. Look at the mess that you have gotten our country into by bending the knee to a monster.
Keep in mind that these are comments on his social network. That's his social network. True Social, it belongs to him. So, like, these are mostly Trump's people. These are Trump. They, as you can see, they're saying they are Trump's people, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" And so like I say, he's either well aware of this fact and that the times are changing. He's just gaslighting and trying to hold on to whatever control they have at the moment the best he can, or he just doesn't know. He's just completely unaware. It's either he's trying to keep control or he's just completely unaware. It's one of the two.
I could go on and on, but I have to say that when I was looking online, in my view, what was the most
All right, but I wanted to cover one last thing. This video is getting kind of long. I'm so sorry. I was rambling for a while there. Right here, she talks about a conversation between.
obviously things are not the same between me and Andrew Colvett because I don't believe him. I just don't believe him. But before it was announced that Miriam Adelson gave Trump $100 million, this was, I think it was announced in July or just before July of 2024. And I was told by Charlie that he and Andrew Colvett were present for that meeting with Donald Trump. And the reason that Charlie told me the story, and again, I could go back and try to figure out when exactly the discussion happened. I want to say it was May. So I knew that that money went through, and I knew what she wanted in exchange for $100 million.
Okay,
What Charlie and Andrew
I'll
Colvett
say it
told
after.
me was that she said that she wanted in exchange for Trump to allow them to annex not Gaza, but the West Bank. I was stunned by this. I think it has since made the news. But of course, this is like a totally different pretense than October 7th. Hamas is not in the West Bank, and that is what she wanted in exchange. After she said this to Trump, Trump went, he was wherever Charlie was, Trump was adjusting his tie and
Here it
looking
comes.
in the mirror, and he said, I'm going to take her money and then I'll F her over. Okay. I am hearing this from Charlie, who was there first person, and Andrew, who confirmed this. Andrew was also there. That nobody else was there but Andrew and Charlie when Trump said this.
Okay, so that's a horrible. Let me hold on. Let me pause it where she's got. That was a messed up pause. I'm not gonna do her like that. But okay, if what she said like is true, and can you imagine if these people got wind of him saying that, like I'm gonna screw these people over for $100 million, whatever it was, and then like what a few months later he gets shot, or like a month later or something. I think it was a month later he got shot. That's kind of crazy. I don't know timeline, weird timeline there, but I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? That I mean, that could have been completely unrelated, and but I still think that if they heard about that, that it would be kind of a big deal. And I also don't think you see. Okay, here's another thing. These people, when Candace says stuff like this, it's actually very what's the word? Risky for her. It's risky for her to say these things because she could theoretically come under a lawsuit or whatever. But the thing is, like, a lot of these people saying these things, they never actually take action. They could, they don't. They just say stuff because now if they do, if they sue, then that means the lawyers get access to both parties' cell phones, emails, blah 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 blah, to prove everything, to prove intent, to prove whatever. And so you got to think what maybe the reason that they don't sue her is because they don't want lawyers rifling through everything that they own. It's just something to think about, man. I see so many. I decided, I see so many people saying that this is demonic and evil, and they're stupid, low IQ. The president's saying it, for Christ's sake. So I was like, no, hold on, man. Somebody's got to come in here from a more rational viewpoint, and like, this is crazy that this is happening. So I was like, there's so many voices out there pushing the other craziness. It's like, hold on, stop, look at what's going on a little bit, because it's not always what it seems. You know what I mean? And like I say, the people up at the top, they can't relate, so they don't even understand how absurd that everything looks to everyday people like us. But anyway, if you made it this far, man, thank you so much for watching. I'm working on the views, or the view length, the video length, because I do be rambling sometimes. I'm trying to cut it down a little bit. But if you made it this far, thank you guys, and see you on the next one.